Yes. Okay, I see this.
Awesome.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I'm super excited to hear from you because I know I did a poll on Instagram stories yesterday and asked like how many people suffer from some type of flight anxiety, and I think it was over 90% said yes. So it's
Whoa.
definitely
That's
something a lot of people
crazy.
deal with for
Oh,
sure.
that's really interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've like never opened up about my fear of flying or how I overcame it, nothing like that. It's been like one of those articles that I've meant to write for like 7 years and haven't.
Really? Oh my gosh. I was
Yeah,
assuming
so
this was something maybe you'd written about a million times. That's
no, I mean
wild.
I talk about it all the time because obviously like with all the flying that I do, it definitely comes up, but I mean I haven't like actually discussed it straightforward or anything like that on any of my channels. So it's super exciting.
That is crazy. Well, okay, so before we dive into everything, let's just start by you sharing a bit about yourself and your blog.
Yeah, fabulous. So I'm Sarah. I have been to over 100 different countries across all 7 continents as the 5 Foot Traveler. I launched the 5 Foot Traveler back in 2013, and I never expected it to go on to become my career. But, you know, I don't think many of us expect that. And then all of a sudden, we find ourselves in a completely different spot than we ever thought, but it's just amazing. So I do travel full time and I consult companies on their marketing strategies, on their business strategies, on their social media. I do photography. I'm a sponsored photographer. And of course, one of my biggest passions in life is to go out and see the world and really find those hidden gems and immerse myself in the cultures. So obviously that's all put on pause at the moment.
Yeah.
I'll put on pause at the moment. You know, getting quarantined overseas was enough for me. But yeah, excited for whenever, you know, travel resumes.
Oh yeah. Same, same. When did you start your blog? I'm curious.
So I started this rendition in 2013. I launched in 2011. I studied abroad and launched like a terrible, terrible blog that like I just actually looked back on, I think late last year, early this year. And it was like one sentence, photo, one sentence,
Same.
photo,
Oh
and that was
God.
every blog post. But it was just for like me and my family and my friends. And looking back at it, I'm like, wow, I really, really messed up there.
Some of my posts from 2011 are like, I'm like, nobody would care about this. I wrote about
Yeah.
like going on a hike in this tiny, like this place that no one would ever travel to, and no one would certainly ever go to this tiny little random hike. And I wrote about like a picnic I had there. I'm like, nobody is going to care about this
At
at
least
all. And
you
I totally did the
wrote,
photo
at least
sentences.
you wrote something. Mine literally was just like paragliding over the Swiss Alps photo.
Yeah. Oh,
So much
definitely. Because I feel
detail.
like it was like quantity over quality for sure.
Yeah. Oh man, how things have changed.
Yeah.
That's for sure. It's crazy though that like by next year, you know, it's over a decade of at least trying to figure out this blogging world, which is wild.
Yeah. And I started in 2002. It's
Oh,
changed
that's crazy.
so much.
So much. Yeah, it's crazy. Like I said, like I did it super casually in 2011, just like for me. And then 2013 is when like I rebranded to the 5 Foot Traveler and was like, all right, let's, you know, give this a whirl. And since then it's been amazing.
Yeah, I love your blog too. Your photo, like I'm not surprised you're a sponsored photographer. I'll say that.
Thank you so much. And I love how colorful yours is. I've spent ample time on yours as well. And it's
Thank
just so
you.
fun, colorful, and like color is just one of my favorite things. So your website exudes color and I love it.
Thank you.
Of course.
So yeah, let's dive in. So there are, many fears of varying intensities that may keep people who want to travel from actually booking a trip. So for you, it was a debilitating fear of flying. When did this fear begin for you?
So this fear actually came about shortly after the September 11th attacks in New York City. I was in 4th grade at the time and I went to travel. So that was September. I went on a family trip that February. And of course, being in relative proximity to that, everybody was on super high alert and, a little uncomfortable, except prior to that, like I loved flying. So I was in my own kind of la la land, like super psyched for my family trip to Mexico. And then we had a really bumpy takeoff, which in my memory is the bumpiest takeoff of my life, even after everywhere I've been.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and a family member got very, very, very uncomfortable and screamed out a little bit, and being really young and impressionable, like that registered with me, because all of a sudden an adult who you look to for, you know, safety and comfort and guidance wasn't composed, and that triggered something in me. So all of a sudden, within moments, my love for travel became a fear, because it automatically was associated with flying. And here I was, like, on a flight, I'm like, what's going on? And then that sparked pretty much debilitating panic attacks for the following 10 years for me. Every time I got on an airplane, leading up to the airport, like the drive going to the airport, through the airport, on the airplane, like it was a process, all because of, you know, that one instance. And even though I knew that, you know, everything was going to be fine, and that, you know, there are more car accidents, you know, daily than plane accidents and everything like that, it wasn't something that I could come to terms with, because that's a phobia. Even if you understand it, you still can't get over it. So it was very, very hard.
Oh yeah. And I feel like too, like I've definitely, you know, read the statistics, and like it's still just like being on a plane, because sometimes I get anxiety about it too. Like
That's totally
like a
normal.
manageable anxiety, but you feel it, you're in it, versus like reading in a newspaper or something.
Of course. Yeah. And I mean, let's be real. It doesn't feel normal to be like, you know, high up in the air in a little closed airplane. It's just,
Oh yeah.
it just like logically is a strange thing to wrap your head around. And so grappling with that at 10, 11, 12, 13, you know, like that isn't, it just doesn't make sense, you know? Even if you read the science, it's just the second the anxiety kicks in, it spirals, you know?
Yeah. So, you know, for some people with a fear, they may just deal with it and live with it. So I'm assuming for you, travel was important since you worked to overcome your fear and because you've traveled so much. So what is it about travel that made you want to put in that work to overcome this fear?
Oh man, well, it definitely took a lot of work. I will say that, you know, I tried just about everything, but the biggest thing was, even from a young age, I just associated travel with excitement. And I loved the idea of seeing a new place and being with people I loved in a new place. And then, you know, trying those different foods and meeting those people from all over the world. Like, I remember being 8 years old and meeting people that lived in all different countries. And I thought that was the coolest thing at 8 years old. I still think it's, you know, the coolest thing now.
I do. I mean, I think that's such a great way to like learn about the world, especially, I mean, now too, but when you're young.
Absolutely. I mean, growing up, because of these family trips I used to take, like I had friends from all different countries. And so even though I never traveled far as a kid or a teenager, I still was going to places where people were. And so I really was exposed to culture from a young age. And I'd always, you know, all through high school, I was really fascinated by history. And so I realized that the best way for me to be able to understand history and culture and try new food and see new places was to travel. And I wanted that. And I'd never been overseas. So after my fear, you know, I'd done some travel to like Mexico and the Dominican Republic, but that was it. You know, I hadn't gone overseas or anything like that, because the idea of going on a 5, 6, 7, 8+ hour flight, it wasn't even an option for me. I struggled enough just trying to get to Mexico. And then ultimately for me, that love of, or what I thought would be that love of the world, transferred over. Like when I went to college, I had these like horrible freshman year roommates, and I just like needed to get away. I knew I always wanted to study abroad, but I ended up studying abroad earlier than I had planned, because I was just like, I gotta get away from this. But the issue was that I couldn't fly. So all of a sudden, it's freshman year of college, and I'm applying to study abroad first semester sophomore year, and I still at this point have this massive debilitating fear of flying. My family's like, how do you plan on getting to Italy? Like, you can't fly.
I guess you could take a boat.
I was like, I
a long
can
time.
take a boat or like a barge or like a cruise, and it's like, no, like you're not gonna do that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, boat might take quite a while.
Yeah. And at that point, I'm not so sure I would have been very comfortable like in the open ocean either. So
Yeah.
for that long. I mean, now I totally would be, but back then, before everything would have been a bit much to commit to, I think.
Yeah. So now you and I spoke about hypnotherapy being something that eventually helped you. But before we discuss that, I'm curious what other strategies you tried to overcome your fear of flying and how these may have helped or maybe didn't work at all.
Yeah, so I tried everything I could have possibly thought of trying. I mean, whether it was, blasting music, learning the statistics, going in to like meet the pilot, being the first person on the plane, learning, trying to focus on my breathing, you name it, I tried it. Like literally, I did everything. Ultimately, before hypnotherapy, the only thing that would help me was actually Xanax. I had a prescribed very high dose of Xanax, and it was the only thing that would literally enable me to get on a plane. Except because I was prescribed such a high dose, because my anxiety level was so high, I couldn't do that, unassisted. It was always my family, they knew exactly what I was taking, everything like that. So that way they could be that, because I wasn't very alert then. It's crazy. And, but the thing is, my fear of flying was so intense that even if I took a Xanax, like a high dose of Xanax, I would still have a massive panic attack at takeoff and then pass out. Like it would not like affect me until after I was already over the thing I was most scared for.
Yeah.
And then I'd pass out, and then I'd feel like hungover the rest of the day. But it was wild, because like that's just how bad my fear of flying was. I just realized though that wasn't sustainable, because I knew that in order for me to feel comfortable doing that, I needed my family with me, so that way, they can look out for me. And so realistically, that wasn't an option if I wanted to study abroad, much less do anything else that involved an airplane. It wasn't an option. And so it was tough, it was really tough. And I got to the point where I didn't think anything would help. I was convinced that it was just a phobia I was going to have forever. And that, maybe I'd have one family trip a year where I'd pop a Xanax and deal with it, and that'd be that. And so to see where my life has, the direction my life has turned is very, very interesting.
Oh yeah. And at that time, like, you had this love of travel too. So that must have been so hard to be like, this thing that I love, like I have to kind of like, just give it up.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I mean, it's not like I had this massive exposure to the world, but like those trips that I grew up with are what, ultimately fueled my love of travel. It was the most exciting week of the year. It's what I looked forward to, every single week. I was like, okay, at least I know, like, once I get to this date, I've got that week in paradise,
Yeah.
Except then once I was 10, all of a sudden I've got that week in paradise, but can we like drive to Mexico, or can we like take a train, or like not get on an airplane?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was definitely a lot to handle. And like I said, it was from, I think, age 9 to 19. So it was, in some pretty big years there. And it didn't matter that I was growing up and, becoming more aware of the world or information or anything. The phobia was still there. It doesn't matter what age you are. A phobia is a phobia. And it's hard. It's hard at any age.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And especially like we said, like something you absolutely love. Oof.
Yeah. I can't even imagine still having it in the same way now. Because it was crippling for sure.
Well, I'm glad that you found hypnotherapy, which we'll talk about now. So, ultimately it was hypnotherapy that helped you get over your extreme fear of flying. I can't wait to hear about this. So what is that exactly for maybe people who don't know? Also myself, so I know what it is, but like I'm curious your definition since you've been through it.
I know that it sounds crazy, because it sounds crazy to me too. Like that was the first time I heard it, I was just like, it's what? But pretty much in like the most simple terms possible, it's going deep into your subconscious is like the simplest way to put it. But the thing is, like, again, that still sounds crazy. Like I hear hypnotherapy and I think of this skit my first week at NYU where like they pulled people on stage and they hypnotized them, and guys like with brooms and did all crazy things, and apparently they were like under a hypnotherapy a spell, and they did all these things out of their control. But that's not what hypnotherapy is. Totally what I thought it was, but it's not. Like totally different.
I think of like The
Yeah.
watch, like in cartoons?
Yeah,
Or?
it's not that. But like, I had no idea what it was. So pretty much, like I said, I thought I went through everything possible. And one day, like I said, I wanted to study abroad. And my mom was like, you should try hypnotherapy. And I was like, I read somewhere that doesn't work. And she was like, well, you've tried everything, so you should really try it. And I was like, don't really believe in it. And she was like, well, what's the worst thing that could happen? And I was like, okay, fine, I'll give it a shot. And so I was very against it. I'm the first person to say I was very against it because, again, I pictured sitting in a chair, like with a thing going across your eyes and like losing control. And I'm somebody that I like to be in control. So the idea of giving that up was really scary for me. But then I went in and I met with this lady named Stephanie, and she was amazing. And she's helped me with some other things too. And after this, but she made me very, very comfortable very early on. And I realized that all of those like preconceived notions that I had on hypnotherapy it was nothing like what hypnotherapy was. So even though like the questions that she was asking and the environment she put me in were very calming and soothing and, access my subconscious, which still to this day, I don't know how she did it. I'm the first person to say, I have no idea, because the beautiful thing was that like when I was sitting there, it was just like talking, like I was in a comfortable chair. I had sounds of waves breaking because that was what was soothing to me. And we talked, I have full memory of every single moment that I was in the office and everything like that. So there was no aspect of losing control or doing weird things or anything that you typically associate with hypnosis, because hypnotherapy is different. And so somehow through whatever techniques she uses and is, obviously highly qualified for, she was able to access my subconscious to be able to get to the root of the problem and, ultimately work from there. And for me, crazy enough, it varies per person, like how long you have to go and things like that, whether you're highly susceptible to hypnotherapy, whether it'll take longer. And even for me, with my very I was, like I said, super against it. It took me just 3 sessions. 3 sessions and a 10-year debilitating fear of flying was gone.
That's crazy. Did you, I know you said you're against it. Did you believe at all it could work? Or it still worked even though you didn't believe it could work?
It still worked even though I didn't believe it could work. But then again, deep down, obviously, I'm sure some part of me wanted it to work. So maybe it is one of those subconscious, maybe that was part of my subconscious whatever, and that's why it worked. Who knows, because obviously I wanted to get over my fear of flying. Of course, I just at the time didn't believe that was going to be the answer, because I was in college, I took AP Psych, and I vividly remember reading in AP Psych, hypnotherapy doesn't work. And so, I was super studious and I was just like, I learned this doesn't work. But again, the subconscious is a fascinating thing. So perhaps deep down, I did want it to work because I was taking the time to go. We were spending the money to go. I needed a solution. I wanted to be able to fly. So perhaps it was there all along and I was never able to consciously acknowledge it. And I'd say that'd probably be a good guess.
She was the guide to bring it out.
Exactly.
What was yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was there. And like I said, 3 sessions later, that's it. 3 sessions. And then a week after my last session, I went on an airplane for the first time. No panic attack.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, so that was going to lead me to my next question. What was your first flight like after the session?
So this was before I was studying abroad. This was, my yearly family trip. It was like a big family reunion. There were 26 of us that went on a trip every year to Mexico, the Dominican Republic. And it was usually in February. So it was leading up to that family trip. And I finished my last hypnotherapy session, on the 3rd session. It was interesting. She's like, "You're ready." And I was like, "I don't feel any different." And she's like, "No, you're ready." And I was like, "But I don't feel any different." She's like, "That's normal. Don't worry, but you've got this." And I was like, "All right, and with my family, let's try this." So a week later, I get on the flight to Mexico, and I had Xanax on me because I wanted that clutch, but I was determined not to take it unless, I really, really needed to. And to make a very long story short, it was my first flight in 10 years where I didn't take any Xanax. I didn't have a panic attack, nothing. And I haven't had one since. And that was back in February 2010, February 2011. And yeah, haven't had one since. And I just did the flight. I mean, I'm the first person to say I still don't like flying, you know, but I don't think anybody is like loves every aspect of flying.
I know one person that loves flying, and I've flown with him before. He's another travel writer, and I only flew with him, I think it was once. We were on a press trip together, and I was like, what is up with you? How do you, he loves like the napkins, the window, like the cushions. He's like, oh my gosh, it's this brand. I'm like, but granted, he writes about planes, like that's like his niche.
Okay, that's like super unique.
Wow. He was so excited.
Wow. See, like, I don't like TSA. I don't like the germs. I don't like the crowds. I don't like being squished next to people, but it's all stuff that, you know, that's not that weird. You know, I don't think a lot of people like those things.
I love not being able to bend forward.
Exactly. No big deal. But, you know, my biggest thing was it eliminated though my fear completely. You know, like I said, I mean, I've had bumpy flights. I've had scary flights. I've had, you know, I've experienced almost all of it in the air at this point, but I haven't had a panic attack. I haven't had to take that Xanax or anything like that, which is incredible. And it still blows my mind all the time because I just never expected, you know, 9 years ago, I never thought that my fear was ever fixable. So it still is just one of those crazy, crazy things to me.
That's incredible. And I feel like it's incredible that you sort of had to just put your trust into someone else who was saying like, you know, if you're sick and then you're better, you feel that, you know, you're like, yeah, I feel better. But like, you feel totally the same and you're just like, okay, but I'm a totally different person. I just can't tell yet.
And you're just like, all right, well, let's hope this treatment that I really don't fully understand, but this person's really qualified. So I got to trust. And I trusted and it worked and it was amazing. And she and I are still in touch, you know, all these years later. And it's incredible because I still, you know, we message all the time. I'm like, I couldn't live the life I've lived if I didn't do this.
Oh my God.
Ultimately, like I said, I tried everything. This was like my last straw, my last option. So
you should send her this video after we're done. Like this would be such a good
watching it. She might be watching it. We are on Facebook together.
Oh my gosh. I feel like this would be so good for her to like use honestly like on her website or as a testimonial.
Totally.
Like,
oh, she'll love this. Stephanie, if you're watching, hi.
That's amazing.
But yeah, no, it was amazing. It was really, really incredible. And like I said, just you have to, a big piece of advice I give people is, you know, just don't give up. If you have a fear, no matter what the fear, there are solutions, even if there are alternative solutions that you never thought of. You know, like I said, I never in a million years thought that this would have helped me and yet changed my life. So it's just about having that open mind to try everything.
And like we were saying too, I think something that probably like deters people is like what they think it is because like, well, you said hypnosis is different than hypnotherapy.
Different from hypnotherapy.
And I bet a lot of people think they're the same because I know I did.
I thought they were the same. Like I said, I vividly remember my first like I think it was my third day of college, like watching this hypnosis thing in our theater. So literally like that's the mental image that I had.
Like that's going to help me overcome a deep phobia. Like I don't
Exactly. Oh man. But yeah, so that's a big difference. Like people just don't really get it. And then like I said, even if you read it, it's a hard thing to wrap your head around. I mean, even for me, it's a hard thing to explain, and I'm not the expert to explain it because even though I had it and I went through it, I don't understand the inner workings of how or why it worked. I just know that it did.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible that it was like this sort of like painless kind of like physically painless, I'm sure. I mean, was it like, did you feel like it was like a kind of enjoyable process or like a simple process?
Fine. It was fine for me. There was nothing, I don't have any negative, there was no negativity at all, no negative memories from it, anything. It was calming, it was soothing. She had me, like I said, choose like a sound that I found comforting, choose a place in my mind that I find comforting. So like for me, it was the sound of waves breaking. And then it was like a beach, a beautiful beach, which ironically was the one that I was, you know, flying to a week later, and things like that. So she made it a very comfortable environment. Like the chair I sat in was very comfortable. I think I might have had a blanket. If I did, it was really comfortable. Like everything was just, it was a very comfortable experience and a very calming experience. And even though we were talking about things that terrified me, the way that it was presented wasn't scary, if that makes sense. It's very different than like, hey, let's talk about all this crap and it's going to get, you know, a little gnarly and, you know, we're just going to talk through everything that is really terrible about everything that's happened. It's not like that. So it's not, you know, re-triggering bad memories, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's very safe. Very, 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 very like mentally safe.
I honestly do that every morning. Like first thing I do is I light a candle. I literally just, I don't come out of my blanket. I like get out of bed with my blanket still on.
That's amazing.
I put my headphones on and I listen to like soundscapes and I'm just like, that's like my happy place.
You should try a weighted blanket for that, because that would make that, if you've never tried a weighted blanket, that might just like elevate the whole experience. Ooh. Just my suggestion. They're so calming and comfortable and fabulous. And I love mine. I sleep with one and it just feels like you're being hugged. It's really cool.
Oh my gosh. We were supposed to get married in July, but postponement obviously with COVID, but we did have that on the registry. Maybe next time around. Yeah, or maybe I'll just buy it for myself. But I've heard good things about them.
Yeah, no, they're wonderful. So if you are somebody that, you know, likes that blanket and those sounds, that'd probably be a good thing to get.
Yeah, I love that. So do you have any rituals or strategies for making flights more relaxing experience? Maybe particularly for those who, you know, feel anxious in the air?
So it really varies like per person. She did give me, you know, so many things to do if I started feeling anxious. While I don't do many of them now, and I probably don't remember a lot of them because I haven't done them. A few ones that stuck is like drawing a backward circle on my thigh. I find very soothing. And you know, you start small and you just make it a bigger circle and you just do that is very soothing. I think there was something where like if you clench your fist, like clenching a fist and then like releasing, don't hold me to this, I think was said to be soothing. And then for me, I like cross tapping. I find this very, very calming.
Same.
For anxiety in general. It doesn't have to be fear of flying, anything, any stress, anything. And this could be on your shoulders. It could be, you know, on your head. It could be crossed on your thighs. So it could really be done anywhere that's comfortable for you. I don't remember the science behind it. I'm the first person to say that. But it's said to be very, very calming. So that's something I just use in my daily life, period. Whether I'm on an airplane or, you know, I have a really stressful day here, trying to do it more because it is very, very good for you. And then at the biggest thing for me with airplanes is I still need the distraction. I don't like sitting on an airplane thinking about the fact that I'm, you know, however many feet up in the air and I hear all the noises and it's just unsettling to me. So I'm like, I really, really like it if I could have my noise canceling headphones on as much as possible. So like my noise canceling headphones are like my number one travel necessity, and like the ones that properly go over the ears, because I need to be able to at least drown out like that's the sound of the airplane, because I just don't love that. So whether I'm listening to music or I'm watching a movie, it's just something so I don't hear just like the sound. Yeah. I just don't find that comforting. You know, that said, I am fine. Like if I'm on a plane with a friend, like I'm not just like, okay, bye. Like I'll totally.
I mean, I wouldn't fault you if you were. But.
and if I were to ever do that, I'd be like, you know, it's a bit, you know, not the most comfortable. But really, the only time I'll do that now, like I could have the headphones off for the whole flight if I'm next to somebody talking, no problem. But if it were to get turbulency, that's when I'm like, all right, guys, hey, there's a bit of turbulence. I really just need to put on my headphones and zone out for a little bit, like while we get through this turbulence, because you know, nobody likes turbulence, but I definitely don't love it. So that's like a biggie for me, is that if it's turbulent, I really need to, you know, whenever possible, get those headphones on and listen to some music just to distract myself.
Oh
Because
yeah.
otherwise, like if we don't have those distractions and those ways to calm ourselves, then that's how you could spiral. And that's when it gets pretty bad.
Do you ever listen to binaural beats by chance?
I have not.
Oh, that's what I mean. I use them to relax, but I also use them for energy. There's one, I'll link it after this or
I
I'll
was gonna
send it to
say,
you.
definitely send this to me.
It's like there's one that's like coffee, like it's I don't really know the science either. It's like different waves in both ears and you have to it comes together here, so your focus goes here, which is so scientific as the way I'm explaining it.
That's
But
very interesting.
I love it. It's either like, you know, energetic or calming. And then the other thing, and this is weird if you're like not in, like people either love it or hate it, but do you know ASMR?
I do. I only know a little bit,
Yes.
only a little bit, but I do know it. Yes.
I'm super obsessed. I actually have an ASMR YouTube channel that I like upload to like once in a blue moon. Like it's just
That's amazing.
like a little thing, but like if you are affected by like, you know, tapping and that kind of stuff, it's like I will listen to it for 2 minutes and I'm just like out.
Really, I am going to have to check this out. That's really interesting. Yeah, I don't, like I said, don't know too much about it, but I'm always open for new suggestions for sure.
Gentle whispering is the best channel. Just I'll say
Okay,
that.
you're going to have to definitely send it to me.
I love it. But like I said, like some people, like my fiance is like weirded out by it because like people will whisper into the camera.
Uh-huh.
You could also just do the audio version. Like I think a lot of these ASMR people have like Spotify playlists probably.
Okay.
I like the video, but yeah, my fiance is like, why is she getting so close to me? I'm like, moving.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, definitely I'll check it out for sure.
So how has your life changed since you've overcome this fear of flying?
Wow. Well, I wouldn't have the life that I have now, that's for sure. Like I said in the beginning, my entire life revolves around traveling the world. And so had I never overcome my fear of flying, I would likely be in a PR job in New York City, working my way up the corporate ladder, paying a lot of money for rent and living in my office. Yeah, I used to live in New York City.
Vouch for that.
So, yeah, I used to live in New York City, so pretty familiar with those prices. And you know, I'd likely, hopefully, maybe have a family by now or something. I don't know. It'd be so different because obviously I never even ended up with that corporate job at all. I originally, after I overcame my fear of flying, I studied abroad twice. I graduated early. I realized that my life was forever changed. I launched the 5-Foot Traveler and the rest is history. Like I never even had that corporate experience. And so had I never overcome my fear of flying, I can't even imagine what my life would look like just because it'd be so completely different from the life that I have now. And of course, I'm incredibly grateful for that and the experiences that I've had. But overcoming the fear of flying has allowed me to go and explore, you know, every edge of the world whenever and wherever I want. And that is a pretty incredible thing to be able to do it with confidence versus fear at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not at this present moment, but you know, in the grand scheme of, you know, when travel exists.
Yeah. How are you? This is like a random question. How are you kind of like, are you traveling at home kind of thing?
So actually, I'm currently redesigning my home office and I'm loving it.
That's so
and
fun.
Honestly, I've been enjoying slowing down a bit because I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with this. We're so go, 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 go.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally opportunity after opportunity, which is amazing, and incredible experience after incredible experience, which is also amazing. But it's also really exhausting because so much more work goes into blogging and press trips and photography and everything that so many people don't understand or acknowledge that I've been wanting to slow down for a while, but every time I'd say, oh, I'm going to slow down a little bit or cut back my trips a little bit, this epic opportunity would arise and I'd be flying to who knows where. And so honestly, as tragic as this entire experience is, and this hits very close to home for me, like my dad had COVID, he's okay. But like, you know, it's very, you know, we're kind of in the thick of it here. And obviously we're both in tri-state where we're hit really hard. But, you know, if we take the actual disease and, you know, all the health issues and everything away and we just look at the fact that we've had to slow down, I think it's kind of honestly a blessing in disguise for me in many ways. You know, I've had some healthier routines. I've gotten to catch up on work that I've wanted to catch up on. And it's just been good to take a bit of a breather.
I agree.
Yeah. I was going to say, how's it been for you?
Same. I definitely, like I think we were saying before, I feel like I'm not less busy, but I'm less like
Yes.
like
Exactly.
going all like really fast.
Exactly.
I'm like, you know what? I could take like a few days to reply to people. Like we're all in the same situation.
Totally.
Country you're emailing me from. So like
Totally. And it's nice though. It's important. I think it's important that we've all kind of have the ability to like, you know, take that breather and yeah, slow down a little bit.
yeah. And I know like when we first started, we live in a really small apartment in the Upper East Side, and like it was challenging. Like he sleeps late. I wake up at 6 every day to do my yoga and stuff. Like we're so different in that way.
Super
That was
hard.
a challenge. But now we've like come up with a routine that works, and like it's nice spending more time together. We're a little fortunate that our friends who live around the block, like right when this started, they left, went to their vacation house and gave us their apartment. So like he basically works from there now during the day.
Nice.
And yeah, it's
Yeah, that definitely is nice.
yeah.
Gives you a little bit of space because yeah, I know there's New York City apartments well, and I could definitely see how tight that can get for sure.
Yeah. So just having that is nice, but I feel like, you know, getting to like kind of like wake up together a little bit and like cook together. Like usually we would never do that. We would both be like, I'm usually watching like junk reality TV, and he's like working, grading, he's a teacher, grading papers till we go to bed. And
Yeah,
now it's like
that's
so
lovely though, that it's allowing, I think, relationships to get stronger in many ways, and it's testing relationships in ways that are important as well. You know,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
really forcing people to know each other and really learn about each other. And like I said, ways that sometimes you just everyday life, you just don't have it, you know?
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
that's really nice. Really, really
And I
nice.
feel like too, like it's been interesting seeing how businesses have been getting creative. Like this fitness studio I'm super obsessed with, 305 Fitness. Usually like the classes are totally worth the money, but they are expensive. It's like say $35 a class.
Uh-huh.
So I go sporadically, but now they're like live streaming classes every day for free on YouTube.
Nice.
And I'm like, when am I going to get to do this?
That's super cool. Totally have to check them out. That's amazing.
Them and Fitness Marshall. I'm like every day, like I'm dancing my way through quarantine, basically.
That's awesome. I've definitely been exercising a lot. It's something that's super important to my lifestyle as a whole. And when I'm traveling all the time, it's a hard thing to stay on top of. And so like
Mhm.
it's nice to get my like 6 days of exercise a week and my yoga. And I'm like, this is fantastic. I feel great.
Absolutely. Um, so just, you know, when it comes to travel, what's sort of your why? Like what is it that you love so much about it?
So for me, the biggest thing is meeting people from all over. It's meeting people, it's discovering those hidden gems. So rather than going to the places that everybody goes to, it's really trying to speaking with the locals and finding the off the beaten path and the path destinations and those places that, you know, have their own beauty that so many people miss because they're just chasing like that insta worthy spot, you know?
Oh yeah.
Whereas, you know, just we started around the same time. Like we started doing this way before Instagram existed. And so it's like, so I never really understood the let's go here so we can get that Instagram photo. Like that's
No.
crazy to me because
I
like
still
it's crazy to me. It's like I started traveling for my love of travel, for my love of meeting new people and cultures and food and trying new foods and learning the history and everything like that. And so yeah, my biggest thing these days is really just trying to find those more local places that are equally as beautiful or special, so that way I don't have to like dodge hundreds of Instagrammers that want this one shot. You know what I mean? And that said, I mean, I totally have plenty of photos that are deemed, you know, the Insta spot. I'm not, you know, hating on that at all. But what fuels me now is finding those local spots, being taken around by locals. When I was in India, one of my followers saw that I was in India and he reached out and he was a photographer and he offered to take me to unique vantage points of the Taj Mahal. And so like I have this beautiful photo on a boat in the middle of a river overlooking the Taj Mahal at sunset. And the way we accessed it, like never in a million years would have ever been able to find it. And it's one of my all-time like favorite experiences that I've ever had traveling. And it was brought to me by one of my followers from India, which was amazing. And then the next morning, he picked us up for sunrise and took me to like the spot so I could get like the photo and just knew exactly what to do and took all the photos. And it blew my mind because it was somebody, like I said, it was one of my followers that just saw I was in India and I was like, I'm going to show you a unique angle. And all of a sudden I got to witness, you know, one of the world's greatest monuments from a perspective that I never even knew existed, much less thought I'd ever see with my own two eyes.
How do you usually like sort of find these places? Is it usually by posting on social media, or do you have like another app or strategy that you use?
It totally depends. Honestly, I try to search a lot of travel blogs because, you know, from one travel blogger to another, I know that people write about hidden destinations. So I do a lot of research through Google to find different travel blogs. And then I do look on Instagram sometimes, and then I definitely try to reach out to my followers like, hey guys, I'm going to be in this place. What could you recommend that isn't, you know, the main site?
Yeah.
You know, where's a really local spot to eat where it might, you know, look like a hole in the wall, but is actually one of the best places I could have eaten at in the country. Things like that.
Those are the best.
Yeah, they are. They're hands down the best. So that's really what I look forward to every time I travel.
Love that. Somebody asked, Sarah, was your hypnotherapy a one-time session or several sessions over time? You had said 3, right?
So for me, it took me three sessions over, I don't remember if it was 3 weeks or 6 weeks, but it was a short amount of time and only 3 sessions. And easy.
That is
It does vary per person. You will obviously have an evaluation, everything like that. The first time you do hypnotherapy, do your research on your hypnotherapist. My hypnotherapist actually does it via the phone now too, which is super cool. So I know like she did it with one of my clients down in Florida, which is super cool. And so it's neat that it's no longer just location based, because I do tell people like, make sure you do your research on, make sure that the people that you choose are highly qualified, you know, have the good testimonials, know what they're doing. That's all really, really important. So like, I recommend, you know, Stephanie through and through, because I used her for my fear of flying, and I actually used her for, I used to sleep horribly. And I had 2 sessions with her about sleep, and I sleep like a rock, and it's amazing. It's like the greatest thing in the world.
You just gave me like a gift idea for my
yeah,
it's so bad.
It's literally the greatest thing in the world. 2 sessions for me, and I sleep wonderfully. And I did that probably in 2012. So yeah, fear of flying in 2011.
Lasts.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it lasts. Yeah, it definitely lasts. So it can be used for all different types of things. People that have trouble with sugar intakes, people that smoke and want to quit smoking, people that have fear of spiders, or whatever it is. Like, most things can be helped through hypnotherapy.
That is incredible. Did she start doing the virtual or the phone because of COVID, or was she already doing it?
She started a while ago.
Okay.
A few years back. And which I think, like I said, I think is amazing, because it just allows you to really reach anybody anywhere, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Wow.
Sure.
So you mentioned that since overcoming your fear of flying, you've explored, I think it was 114 countries over 7 continents.
Yes, I have.
That's amazing. Can you share one of your most memorable travel experiences and why it was so special? I mean, you mentioned the India one, but maybe another one.
Oh my gosh. So that's like one of the hardest questions anybody could ever ask me. But through and through, so as I started on my travels, everybody always used to be like, well, what's your favorite country? Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, well, for food, for sightseeing, for history, for people, like, we gotta quantify this somehow. And I was never able to choose it. And then I found myself in New Zealand. And I knew within probably 24 hours of being in New Zealand that I'd found my favorite country in the world. And I was there for a month. It was this incredible trip, and I was there with my brother, and I think we did a different adventure activity every single day. We did both islands. It was unbelievable. And growing up, So an adrenaline junkie. I've always loved adventure activities, and I'll do just about anything. But growing up, I'd always said the only place I'll ever skydive is New Zealand, because New Zealand is said to be like the most beautiful place in the world. So, you know, I'll do it there. Granted, I thought I was choosing the farthest place away from home, which I mean, I pretty much chose the farthest place away from home. And when I had a fear of flying, I never thought I'd ever make it to New Zealand. So I totally thought it was like a safe thing to say. And once I say something, I hold myself to it. You know, nobody, you know, forced me to do that. Most people probably wouldn't have remembered, but I remembered. I remember that I was like, okay, if I go to New Zealand, like, I'm going to skydive. So, you know, we're getting closer and closer to the South Island where I knew I was going to skydive. And I was like, what did I get myself into? And I decided I was going to do it. So, you know, weeks beforehand, we sign up, everything like that. The day arrives. We sign the waiver. I start crying as I'm signing this waiver, because I'm like, I'm not afraid to skydive. I'm afraid of like, I don't like flying. Like, get me
and now you're in the tiny, plane.
Yeah, it's tiny, you know. It's like this tiny nothingness. There's not even seats. You're sitting in your skydive pilot's lap. And I was like, okay, I'm taking this to a whole new level here. And so like literally crying as I signed my waiver. I called my whole family. I'm like, all right, guys, I'm going to do it. I remember like calling my great grandpa and being like, I'm about to jump out of a plane. And we did it. And to be able to do it with my brother was amazing. Like, to have somebody that had, you know, been there through my whole journey of, you know, my fear of flying and everything. And to have that support was amazing. And ultimately we did it. And I looked so happy jumping out of the plane, because I was just like, get me out of here. But then the craziest thing was that when we landed, I looked at the date, and it was 5 years to the day that I'd overcome my fear of flying.
Oh my gosh.
So I jumped out of a plane 5 years to the day that I overcame my fear of flying, which is just insane.
That's like fate or something.
Yeah. So it was wild. And like, I checked in, I double checked, and I was like, whoa, like, how did that ever happen? And then the next day I actually flew an airplane myself, a tiny little airplane. I took a flying lesson, and there are photos of me just flying the airplane, and the lady isn't touching the steering wheel, and she had me like feel what it's like to get turbulence, and how like the airplane actually naturally evens itself out and all this stuff. So between like jumping out of an airplane and learning how to fly an airplane, New Zealand was just like that culmination of, wow, I'm able to actually see and explore the world the way that I wanted to without this fear. And look at what I just did to prove to myself that this fear is truly gone. And it was wild.
Oh my gosh, you absolutely have to write about that if you have not yet.
I haven't, but I will. It's there's like I do like a multiple part fear of flying series. But that was wild. And like I said, just for that to be so unplanned and to find myself there exactly 5 years later, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you say that, because literally yesterday my fiance was like, if you had unlimited money and time, like, where would you go? And I'm like, New Zealand, because it's like, I've been before, but I was on the way home from studying abroad in Sydney, Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Qantas like gave me, you know, for $100 you could stop in New Zealand and Fiji.
Amazing.
And I didn't have much time though, and I wanted to do both. So I think I did like 5 days in New Zealand. Like, that's not enough.
No, not enough at all.
And like 5 days in Fiji or something like that. But and I think I did Auckland and Rotorua, which were great. But like,
Rotorua is amazing. But yeah, you gotta get back there, get down to like the South Island, or like the southern part of the North Island is amazing.
Yeah.
Coromandel. When you go, I've got so many New Zealand tips. It's unbelievable. It's truly just one of the most beautiful places in the entire world.
Would you say like a month is like minimum?
So I've gone twice. The first time I was there for a month. The second time I was there for 2 weeks. If you want to properly do New Zealand, a month would be the absolute minimum. Yeah. If you're able to break it up into multiple weeks, or you just have 2 weeks and that's that, like, you could totally go and do an epic trip. But I have like a very specific recommendation of like the route I would recommend, because I did a 2 week trip last year and it was amazing, but obviously completely different from spending a month going, you know, through both islands. But yeah, I would say for people that have less than a month, there's a lot of research to be done, and or just like ask me, because there are certain like key places that have to be visited in those 2 weeks. And New Zealand, like the drive times are a lot longer than people realize. So like you really have to factor that in. It's not like drive for 30 minutes. Oh, you've got this. And then it's another 30 minutes. And oh, you've got this. It's like, no, you've got like 4 hours, and then probably like 2, and then like another 2 or 3, and then like another hour and a half, and like another 2. Like there's some, even though it's a tiny country, there's some serious distance there.
Oh, wow.
But it's amazing.
But yeah, that's why I was just thinking back to I did this south of France road trip like years ago, and it was like Nice to Marseille, and like I'm like, really everything we did we could have really done like almost from Nice, like not really, but it's all so close, even though we did a road trip.
Totally. Yeah, so very different. Very different. Like we changed accommodation, I think every night, every other night. Like it was busy, but amazing nonetheless.
Amazing. Well, on that note, thank you so much for taking the time and doing this. And you had said, if anyone has questions about New Zealand, to, check you out and see, what you've written about the country and all the other places you've been, tons of 114 countries. So how about you just let everyone know the best places to find you?
Thank you so much. So my website is the5foottraveler.com, because I'm a whopping 5 feet tall. And you can find me at the 5 Foot Traveler on Instagram, obviously here at the 5 Foot Traveler on Facebook, and on Twitter and Pinterest. It's the 5 Foot Traveler. You'll find me everywhere.
What's your main channel? Are you mainly Instagram?
Instagram mainly. Well, my website, and then for social, Instagram, I would say for sure. It's the easiest way to keep people up to date.
Yeah, especially as a photographer. I feel like I've always like before quarantine, I mean, I still post on Instagram all the time. Like I was like, oh, Instagram. And now I feel like I've been really into Twitter during quarantine.
Nice. Yeah. My friend just said to me today, like, I wonder how Twitter will do during quarantine. I'm like, I don't know, maybe we'll play around with it.
I think people are just like loving like the quick like quips and like just like the conversations. I don't know why, like suddenly I'm just like Twitter. Maybe
because it takes less like thought visually and creatively, I think.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us, at least I know I'm sort of in like a creative funk at the moment, which I'm totally okay with. And like Twitter, you don't have to be as creative in a way, in my opinion.
You don't have to like edit. Like you could I could take like a really ugly photo of my cat that was like running around before and like post it with like shadows and whatever. Whereas like Instagram, I'd be like, gotta edit it in Lightroom, gotta crop it.
Exactly. Like it's just easier. Like some platforms are just so much easier than Instagram. So I think I appreciate that during quarantine for sure, just like you. But Instagram isn't going anywhere either. So there's that. However, I'm not, doing dance videos on TikTok because
I was just going to ask you that. I just joined. I'm still trying to figure it out because I do feel like I'm like, am I the right demographic for this? I don't know, but I'm going to try.
Nice. Well, I will leave you to that. I have it and I gave up on it very quickly. I was like, this is not for me. But
it's
I will follow you and hope that you have more success there than I do.
I'm just like dancing, like I don't know, giving tips at the same time. I'm like mixing what I actually do with like the dancing aspect of TikTok, I guess.
That's perfect. Yeah, I don't dance, so I'm just like, nope. Like that's not happening. The world does not need to see that. Oh man.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Once we end this, I'll repost this and I'll actually put links in the chat for anyone that wants to.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was lovely chatting with you.
You too, getting some human interaction.
Yeah, and hopefully once this quarantine's over, we could actually like meet up or something since we're really.
Yeah, I know, you're so close.
That'd be really, really cool. And we'll try to make it happen.
Yeah.
All right. Lovely chatting. Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Bye.